Hey everybody, welcome to So Many Sequels, your book club for movies. I'm Josh.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm David.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to July. Hot off of celebrating Independence Day. July 4th brings big movies, and this July 4th was no exception. We got the opening of the second reboot of Jurassic Park. I had to count it in my head. This is the second reboot, the third series, I suppose. Jurassic World Rebirth, which we're going to be talking about later in the week. So make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get podcasts, or you can get the video on YouTube or on Spotify. Just search for So Many Sequels there and go to SoManySequels.com where you can find all that stuff. All that good fun stuff is there. All right, let's talk about what we've been watching this week, though. Let's see here. Look at our... We got... Oh, my God. I don't want to start with Garrett. I'm going to start with David, because you got some holiday fun in there, it looks like. I'm sure that's why you watched the Sandlot.
It is. So I kind of have a very basic 4th of July movie playlist that I kind of like. It's one that starts with the Sandlot. Sandlot, perfect summer movie. Summer kids movie. Nostalgic, sure. And on it is probably one of the best 4th of July sequences ever put to cinema, and that is obviously the night game, set against Ray Charles's America the Beautiful. So really fun, put me in the spirit, that's for sure. Or at least put me in the spirit for better times. And then follow that up with National Treasure, which is not necessarily very 4th of July-y, but it is a lot of like American history stuff and American Revolution and all that. The Declaration of Independence, makes you think about more optimistic times. And I really just enjoy both of those. And then I like to finish it off with Rocky IV. Again, not inherently 4th of July, but, it's the America and Rocky and going into Russia and the fight and all that. It's such a perfect capper. If I could change, who could change? All that stuff, right? Rocky IV, fantastic. I didn't get to manage to finish Rocky IV.
That's okay.
But had a lot of stuff going on.
Is your goal to watch all three of those on July, like on the day? Like open with this, the middle of the day you got this, and then you close it out with Rocky?
Yeah. If possible. And really the order can switch just kind of depending on the people who are around, because some people might obviously want to watch one or the other earlier. But sure. Ideally, so like this 4th of July, I did start the Sandlot sometime around noon, and then just rolled right into National Treasure after that. Took a little bit of a break. Tried to start Rocky IV, but by that point, fireworks stuff was happening outside, so couldn't really get the full vibe of it. I've also considered watching some other ones. There's a lot of popular movies people like for the 4th of July. Miracle, the USA hockey team and all that. Big American sports stuff is always a good one to go with. Triumph and Celebration and all that.
Yeah.
But I also thought about watching like 1776, like the musical. But
Feeney.
Yeah,
I watched Act 1 of Hamilton, but only Act 1.
Yeah. And a lot of people are big on
yes,
Hamilton for the 4th of July lately. It's become it's becoming a tradition.
And for good reason, it's a nice history lesson on the founding of the country. You get it from the perspective of this founding father that not everyone knows about. So, and it's just, approachable music for people today. It's fun.
It's a fun jam.
It's a fun jam. People like the John Adams HBO series. That's a good one I see pop up a lot. There's a lot of good reasons, or good things to watch for the 4th.
Prior to major events in one of the stars' lives, I used to really like to watch The Patriot. With,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and sometimes it's not too bad to have on, but it's not as kosher as it used to be.
You can just pay attention to the Heath Ledger parts.
There you go.
That's my favorite parts.
He is the best part anyway, regardless. All right, well, that sounds good. I went to the theaters this week and did a rare double feature, which was very fun. I ended it with Jurassic World, so we'll talk about that later in the week. But I also went to see The Life of Chuck, which is the new Stephen King adaptation from director Mike Flanagan, starring really just like a great cast of people. You got Chiwetel Ejiofor, you got Tom Hiddleston, Jacob Tremblay. I'm just naming it off the top of my head, but there's more. And I had heard good things about it, but I really wasn't familiar with the story. This is not one of the Stephen King stories I know about. I think it's one of his shorts or a novella maybe, but I knew it wasn't.
It's also not Terry. It's also not scary.
That's what I was just gonna say. I also knew that it wasn't like a horror piece, so it's pretty intriguing. I will say I don't want to. There's not a lot I can say without getting too spoilery because it's really interesting in how it tells it. The story's not told linearly. It's told in 3 acts, and you see Act 3 first, and then Act 2, and then Act 1.
Oh,
And
interesting.
just trust that it works. It made sense to me, and it's like defined clearly, but it almost each one is a different, almost bleeds into different genres sometimes, and it is about the life of Chuck. That's that is what it's about in every sense
And
of the word.
was Mark Hamill in this too?
Mark Hamill was in this, and let me tell you all, I didn't realize it was Mark Hamill until 2/3 of the way into the movie, and he is a significant character. And that may be just me being a big old dummy and not paying close enough attention, but his voice is different. He's great with voices, we all know this, but he changes his voice to this kind of more gravelly old man voice, and he's just very different looking. He's got long white hair, he got a long beard. Like, he just didn't look or sound like Mark Hamill, so the dude disappeared to me. But I really enjoyed it. It was a nice feel-good movie.
That's great. That's a good way to
And I've heard of
spend a 4th of July, I feel like. If you're going to go into a movie, you got to watch one that's going to bring you up a little bit,
Yeah.
You want to be
Unexpectedly,
high
too.
up on the celebrations, yeah.
I've heard a lot of good things about Life of Chuck for a little while now, and everybody kind of says a similar thing of like, there's sort of a feel-good quality to it, but it doesn't feel like fake or feels very authentic.
It's gonna ride the line for some people. I will say I've listened to some other reviews where folks came out and were like, nah, it's a little too schmaltzy for me.
Yeah.
And your mileage may vary. I think there's a level of how much cynicism you approach it with might kind of dictate that part, but I didn't think it was overly schmaltzy. I thought it was very nice.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. And then Garrett, you have some scary titles on here. What is this?
It's less exciting than it looks.
Okay.
I haven't had a chance to make it to the theater, but I've been watching some shows. And one of the things that I have always liked is a good murder show that you can just turn on and watch, right? Investigation Discovery used to be a place that I would go for something like that. And so I got to shout out Peacock because we talk about the streaming services and how awful they are, and nobody gives Peacock enough credit. Peacock has got some good stuff.
Come on.
And
guys.
the way they have it structured is great. Like, if you're going to watch a movie, they give you like 90 minutes of ads first, and then it's just movie. There's no interruptions. It's fantastic. They have channels if you want to just see something. And so you can just turn on a channel of SNL, and it's just a shuffle button of the best SNL skits that you can find. It's amazing. They also have the same thing for murder. And so I found this show called Accident, Suicide, or Murder. And I was prepared for it to be really stupid. One of those that's just bad reenactments and things like that. And it was actually kind of interesting. And I think that because we have a news background, I think that it's one that you guys would also find interesting. So it's not just, here's a murder and here's the breakdown. It kind of walks through the investigation. And as you know, when police start an investigation, oftentimes they get new evidence, right? And things change. And that is common. And that is just the way the world works, is that you get new evidence of something, and sometimes it changes. It's a regular concept. I just need people to understand that a little bit.
Yeah.
And so going through this, it starts off with looking at, somebody's death. And you look at it from the investigator's perspective or some of the family members, and it's like, here's what we see, here's what we saw, and so we ruled it a homicide. Well, and then they start looking at it again, and it's like, well, maybe it's not exactly what we see. And this person reviewed the evidence, and now they're calling it an accident. Oh, my God. And so it really just kind of goes through how the evidence and how it looks can change based on time,
Yeah.
And the investigation process. And by
so-
time, I mean, like, some of them will be like cases from the 90s, and then some of them, and they'll be picked up in the 2000s because they will have been cold cases, essentially, or
Right.
ruled an accident, but somebody has a suspicion, and so they bring it back in modern technology. So it's a really interesting show in that regard of looking at the evidence of a case. So I really have enjoyed it.
And it's kind of a docu-style type thing, like interviews or something like that?
Yes, it's
Okay.
it's got a lot of the investigators who were involved, or reporters who reported on the story, family members of some people. So it and very few reenactments, but there are a few. But they incorporate police footage if there's actual police footage or videos and things like that. So it's a very good balance.
Part of me, as you started to describe it, I was picturing Fact or Fiction with Jonathan Frakes, and I just wanted him to be like, is this tale of a person falling off a bridge too coincidental? Accident, suicide, or murder? Find out next,
Oh, I thought it was going to be like every one of them's going to end up murder. But it's not, they really are. They really do. And so I was like, oh, okay, they keep me guessing.
Yeah, there's
Most
going to
of
be
them are
some where
murder.
you're going to be
Most
like,
of
there's
them are
no,
murder,
this has
but-
to be a murder. This is like, how could that have happened? Then you go like, oh, okay, well, when you this person got Final Destinationed. Like, it looks
Yes.
like murder, but it's totally it's like natural circumstances all.
That was one of the first ones that I just picked a random one to start, and I was like, okay, let's go into it. And it was a guy, a person who they assumed was murdered, and he unfortunately, and this is gonna sound sad, but he slipped on his stairs and just like cut himself open, and rather than calling for help, he thought he could take care of it, and then he just bled out and died.
Damn.
But they were like, there's so much blood all over the house.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like a homicide.
Yeah.
But no, he just fell, cracked his head, and didn't call for help.
Couldn't
Tried to
come
take care of
couldn't
himself.
come to
Died.
fast enough.
In
That's
a
too bad.
world where perhaps after death you still have some knowledge of what's going on Earth, how do you feel if your accidental death is featured on this show? Are you going to be
I
like,
think
"Oh,
it
man,
depends.
I'm the accident.
I
I'm an
think-
accident, suicide, or murder."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
I think it would be very embarrassing. I think I'd be like, oh my god, man! I've been telling people that I was killed by somebody for a decade now.
I bet that's a really fascinating job to be like a researcher for, to
Yeah.
go through files and try to find cases that would be compelling enough for this type of show.
I agree. Well, that sounds
Well,
interesting.
I
Might be
recommend
worth
if you're
that.
looking for a turn your brain off kind of show, I would recommend it. It's on Peacock.
That and Love Island, also on Peacock.
Yes, been watching that too.
People are all about that.
I know.
Been watching it.
I know. I'm catching up too. I knocked out 3 episodes yesterday, gang.
Nice.
David's like, shh, please shut up.
Uh,
This is how it'll be. Garrett and I can do Love Island, and you and Garrett could do wrestling, and then
Yeah.
you and I will have to come up with something. I don't know. We'll figure it
Yeah.
out.
well, it's when we make our occasional
Conan
country music
references.
references.
Conan and Star Trek references.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about some of the new trailers that came out this week, because usually with big new movies comes big new trailers, and we got a couple with the Jurassic World Rebirth opening. First is this new Running Man trailer, which is a remake, right? Or is it a...
Yeah, also a Stephen King thing, I think.
I think so. I think it's based on a Stephen King novel, and this one's directed by by Edgar Wright. That's what I meant to say.
Correct.
Who is great. This one is starring, what's his name, Glen Powell, in the lead role, taking over from Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 1987 version. I have never seen the 1987 version. Have you guys? You know about?
Nor
Running
have
Man?
I.
So I didn't know
No.
anything
No.
about it. I don't know about y'all, but when I saw the trailer, I was like, "Oh, I didn't know this was like a weird Hunger Games TV show, Truman Show type situation,
Death
where
race type thing, yeah.
Death Race, yeah, kind of situation."
That type of stuff.
Ooh.
Did you get to see it, Garrett?
No, I haven't seen the whole thing. I
Okay.
walked in at the very end of the trailer, so you have described it in a way. You know what? If you bring in weirdly Death Race. That's gonna get me excited. I love that movie.
So
It's that type of thing
the
where
premise, it's a game
Yeah.
show called The Running Man, and people are chased by murderous hunters across the world to win money, is what it says. And the trailer would suggest to you all that Glen Powell's character is being hunted by everyone, and he has like a month or something to survive this TV show.
yeah.
It was very interesting, and it gave me, I don't know, Edgar Wright has an interesting filmography. It reminded me of Baby Driver a little bit in the constant movement aspect. It looks fun.
Yeah.
And while it's a Schwarzenegger, like the original movie was a Schwarzenegger movie, I did a little bit of research on it, and there are going to be some differences story-wise. I think the original with Schwarzenegger kind of changed some of the details about the main character a little bit, but and this one's a little bit more faithful to the book. In regards to like Schwarzenegger's run of movies, this is not one of his more financially successful. This one just kind of barely scraped by, beating its own budget. But I think it does have some, kind of cult status. People really like this. There are some people who really like this movie. It feels, just looking at it, like it's getting the right vibe. I mean, you can watch the trailer for the first Running Man, and it does feel just kind of like, it's very Schwarzenegger. Yeah, so I'm kind of more interested than I was a few months ago when I just saw that they were making a remake. Like, I think that it looks interesting. Michael Cera is in it as sort of a ally of sorts of Glen Powell's character. Glen Powell's character is trying to do this so that he can pay for his daughter's operation of some sort. The original movie is set in 2017 after a worldwide economic collapse.
Yeah, I was just reading that the original movie is set in a dystopian America between 2017 and 2019, and now I feel unsettled.
In America, the
Ooh.
United States has become a totalitarian police state.
What is
Starting
happening?
in 2017. Isn't that in... I didn't say anything.
I don't know if this one's still going to be set. I assume they're going to move the setting forward a little.
They shouldn't.
Bit, but that would be funny
That'd be
if it was
funny.
still 2017.
Wouldn't it?
Make it modern days.
Yeah, I'm interested. That will come out.
November, I think.
Yeah, I was trying to get the date. November 7th. In theaters, so that'll be really excited. And then, I don't think this has been dropped online yet in an official capacity, but right before the start of Jurassic World, we got a nice teaser for Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, which will be coming out a year from now in July 2026.
Yeah.
Pretty cool stuff. It looked like a Christopher Nolan movie. It's got that grand set, those grand set pieces, those epic shots on the water.
Yeah.
Amazing costumes. Reactions. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I just saw it not that long ago as of this recording, and I gotta tell you, before I get into the trailer itself, I personally kind of liked what they did. They ran the Nicole Kidman, and you think you're getting ready for the movie, and so it fades down, and then boom, here's a trailer about a big movie. And truthfully, I think they should do that more often. If there's a big movie that you're pushing, hit me with that. I am ready and in that moment. And so I am hyped for something, right? And if you give me something like that, that lets me know that you're invested in it, that you believe in it as a studio. And so you give me that fake curtain and then boom, hit me with something. I liked it. What did they do that for you guys?
They did. And it's such and one of the aspects that you see, like, it obviously it has narration, it has some dialogue and stuff, but there's a text that comes up and it says 1 year from today or something like that, or 1 year from now, or it was something like that. It was something to the effect of coming in 1 year. So it really like creates this like hype of like, oh, this is something big. I don't know. And like whether or not it ends up being big, it's a great way to make your movie feel big, of like just 1 year from now.
It was
you'll
the
be seeing
same
this.
way that they did some of the Oppenheimer trailers, you may remember. They did a year from now with that
big ticking clock.
countdown clock.
Yeah.
They seem to be repeating what works. So
Universal seems. This is the second, I believe, this is the second movie now with Nolan working with Universal. And Universal seems to really be valuing the fact that they've got Nolan working with them, and he's not with Warner Brothers anymore. They're really positioning everything he does as an event, which is hard to do that with every movie. But this is a big one, and this is one of the biggest opens of the year, and it's so far it's the big open of the summer. So they got this, sort of quietly in front of a lot of eyeballs. And I'm sure eventually they will put it online. But for right now, I think it's going to be exclusively in theaters for a little while, which is an interesting way to go with it. Because obviously you put it on the internet, then it's the reach is tremendous. But this adds a level of exclusivity that if you don't want to watch it on someone's iPhone recording, I ain't gotta go to the movie theater so I can see this teaser.
Right. And honestly, that's a lesson that I think that they can take away from this. I know that virality gets views and clicks, but you know what people want more? The thing they can't have. The thing they can't have, the thing they can't find. If everybody's seeing and if everybody's talking about it, by the time it comes out, people might be sick of it. And so maybe you create a small bubble.
Yeah.
Because that creates that word of mouth. Oh, my God, did you see that new Nolan trailer? No, you haven't? Oh, my God, you got to go to the movie theater and see it.
Yeah.
Like, it is
FOMO.
Crazy. It's not anywhere on the internet. The only place that you can see it is at the movie theater. So maybe that is, again, movie theaters have to start doing something different. And if they want to be successful, and not movie theaters, just them, the movie studios, and we talk about this all the time on the show, but they've got to create some exclusivity. They've got to create a reason to go. And
you got to make it an event. Yeah.
If you're just jizzing out everything as fast as you can, that's what they're doing at this point in time. That's what listen, Netflix made a movie where Nassim Pedrad got hit in the face with a dolphin's penis.
I'll never
That
forget
is a
it.
movie that is made on purpose. And that is awful. We shouldn't be here. So that's what I'm saying. Less is sometimes more.
So to briefly describe what happens as I remember it, it sort of opens up.
Are you about to describe Nassim Pedrad getting hit in the face with a dolphin?
No.
Just checking.
But it opens up a big shot of the ocean, and you hear some narration of sorts from John Bernthal and Tom Hiddleston, or not Tom Hiddleston, Tom Holland, excuse me, and Tom is playing Odysseus' son. John Bernthal is playing one of the Greek kings. I don't know if he's been identified just yet, but just kind of talking about like, hey, who has a story about Odysseus? And it's very like they're not going for like really cheesy British accents or anything, or anything ridiculous. I think they're just kind of going with neutral voices. You see the beach, you see the Trojan horse on the beach, people riding up to it, and then you see Matt Damon, sort of somewhat lifeless, floating on a chunk of broken boat in the vastness of the ocean.
And then
The
DiCaprio
Odyssey.
spins atop.
Whirling things flying through the screen. So yeah, I thought this was a really good, like, effective way to release this trailer, but also a pretty effective little teaser. I went back and watched the Oppenheimer one just to kind of see if it was kind of similar vibes, and sure enough, I mean, I think they have a good strategy for their teasers.
So, David, you said you also had a theater experience story. I feel like this is the best place to tell it since we're talking about we just saw this trailer in the theater.
Almost immediately after the Odyssey trailer, like it ends, the Universal logo starts to come up for Jurassic World Rebirth, and all of a sudden, these little emergency lights and an alarm starts going off.
No.
Like as loud as possible, and a voice comes on saying, "There has been an event reported in the theater. Please stand by for further instructions." And this just went on, and we were like, I lowered my seat. I started standing up because an event is reported. That could mean a ton of things. So
there could be a dinosaur in there.
And the thing is, so now the movie is playing with these alarms going off. So just to kind of like put this part in, these alarms went for like the first 8 minutes of the film. So I kind of missed in terms of hearing things well. a lot of little exposition at the beginning, I'm thinking. But and we can talk about, that aspect of the movie later this week when we talk about Jurassic World. However, I'm just like sitting here nervous because I don't know what's happening. My wife looks at me and says, "Should we leave?" And I'm like, I mean, if the theater's on fire, yes, we should leave. But if it's a situation where like somebody's got like a weapon or something outside, I don't want to run headfirst into it.
Yeah, you don't want to go
or
out
whatever.
there either.
I don't know, like, until someone comes in here or comes over this intercom and tells us what this event is, I don't know if I want to start running anywhere.
It's just a big
But
sale in the concession stand.
turns out someone just pulled the fire alarm. Turns out someone just perfect timing pulled the fire alarm right as our movie started. I don't know if it was throughout the whole theater, like throughout like all the different rooms, or if it was just isolated to our room. Josh, you had texted me right after the movie about something else, saying like about the movie, and I thought maybe you were also there. So I was going to ask you if you had the same experience, because I didn't know if it was localized to just us. But yeah, like, so 8 minutes went by. Finally, they turn off. And a couple various people had gone out to like complain about it, and
Yeah.
so
They
yeah,
didn't restart
it kind
the
of,
movie?
they did not restart the movie. They did not, there was a big part of me that was like, can we pause? Hey, guy up there, is that a thing? Can we pause the movie?
It goes off for
So-
8 minutes, and then you got to restart the movie.
I would have appreciated that a lot. They didn't even offer. It wasn't even like there was I kind of also expected there to be like an usher or something waiting outside to be like, hey, here's like a
Free pass?
refund or a pass or something like that. Yeah, I've never had that happen before.
No, I haven't had that happen. Although, weirdly enough, I did have, when I was watching Jurassic World, everybody's phones got an emergency alert at the same time. And, those blast through your silencer. And so it was a weird, like, 2 to 3 minutes of it coming in waves. So that was kind of funny. But it didn't really interrupt the movie. People just kind of laughed and turned it off. But I'd never had that happen either during a movie.
There was a thing where early on in the movie, obviously something went wrong and like alarms started going off in the movie. And I was like, well, now we're just watching this in 40X. It felt very, very, it fit for a few minutes there. And then Scarlett Johansson's trying to talk to somebody. And I'm like, okay, get none of this.
Yeah, I got to focus on
Anyway, more on that.
Yeah,
later.
We'll talk about that later in the week. But let's wrap up here with our look at the holiday weekend box office. Did Jurassic Park just stomp all over everything? I mean, world.
It did. It did. To go with the obvious, Jurassic World roared into the box office this week. I'll give more details on this during our review later this week.
Yeah.
But $147 million opening. It opened on Wednesday, so it kind of got an extra 2 days out of this whole thing. So that's a 5-day total of 147. It's 3-day total of the actual Friday through Sunday, 91 million, which would still be good enough to be, I think, the third best open of the year. $318 million worldwide, so huge open for Jurassic World Rebirth, and proving that there's at least interest in the franchise. Whether or not that maintains, we'll find out. F1 is at number 2 with 26 million. How to Train Your Dragon slides at number 3 with 11 million. Leo is at number 4 with 5.7, and 28 Years Later rounds out the top 5 this week with 4.6 million. The only movies opening wide next weekend will be Superman, and I believe our plan is to be in the theater for that. So should be a fun week.
Fingers crossed. We do plan to do that. Yes. All right. Yeah. Big weekend at the movies. Lots of stuff to go see. So y'all should do it. It's fun. It's a fun thing to do. All right. We will be back later in the week with our review of Jurassic World Rebirth. Stick around for that. Go see it if you want to before this comes out so you can enjoy it with us. And then plan to go see Superman next week. Like David said, we're going to have a review for that as well. You can find all of our social media links, past episodes, and more over at somanysequels.com. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.